Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Foundry by Forge College. I am absolutely thrilled to be your host for this explainer today. Now, in our previous lesson, we walked you through guided implementation of an identity integration pattern, right? Well, today we are bridging that gap. We're jumping right into how to take a published CLI and actually turn it into a widely adopted team tool. Because, let's be honest, it's not just about building cool software. It is about making sure your team actually uses it to make their lives easier. Okay, let's look at our roadmap for today. We're going to kick things off with the unused tool problem. Then we'll walk through 3 concrete steps: predictable installations, the onboarding runbook, and automating triggers. After that, we'll talk about peer validation. And finally, we'll wrap the whole thing up.
All right, let's dive right into section 1, the unused tool problem. Picture this for a second. You just bought the absolute fanciest, shiniest new espresso machine for your office, but you just drop it in the break room. You don't plug it in, there's no user manual anywhere, and you definitely didn't set up a cleaning cycle. It's a gorgeous, powerful machine, sure, but nobody is going to use it. They're just going to keep drinking the sad instant coffee. Well, software is exactly the same way. A published CLI that just exists on a server as a release artifact, it's just gathering digital dust. What we want is an integrated CLI, something that is plugged in, highly discoverable, and used daily. The big takeaway here is that distribution without integration always produces unused tools.
So we clearly need a concrete game plan to fix this, right? To get our proverbial coffee machine plugged in, write the instructions, and automate its maintenance, we have to follow 3 specific steps. Step 1, create a reproducible install script. Step 2, write a super clear onboarding snippet. And Step 3, set up an automation trigger. Let's break these down one by one and see how they fit together.
Moving on to Section 2, which is Step 1, predictable installations. Okay, this is where we build that accessible plug for our tool. Your install.sh script absolutely must be predictable, reproducible, and idempotent. And hey, idempotent is just a fancy engineering term that means you can run the script over and over and over again without breaking anything or duplicating files. To do this right, your script needs to handle 3 specific things. First, verify platform compatibility. Is your user on a Mac, Linux, or Windows? Second, fetch the exact correct release artifact for that platform. And third, place the executable on a standard path, like a local project ./bin directory. And a quick tip here, keep this script small but verbose. You want your teammates to actually be able to read the logs when they run it, rather than just staring at a blinking cursor, wondering if their terminal just froze.
You know what the absolute best ending to your install script is? It's printing a simple, crystal clear success message right to the screen. Something like CLI installed v1.2.3. Getting that immediate feedback upon success is a game changer. It completely eliminates that infamous, frustrating, well, it works on my machine guesswork. If everyone sees the exact same version number printout, you know your foundation is rock solid, and they are ready to actually start using the tool.
All right, Section 3. Let's talk about Step 2, the onboarding runbook.
If the install script is the plug for our shiny new coffee machine, the runbook is the helpful little sticky note placed right on the front, showing people exactly which buttons to press to get their espresso. It is just a simple 1-page snippet. It walks a teammate through installing the CLI and executing a single deterministic task. Now, deterministic just means the outcome is totally predictable every single time. In the courses we design at Forge College, we always emphasize that good learning requires keeping initial tasks really narrowly scoped. Don't make someone run a massive database migration on day 1. Just have them run a simple validation command that outputs a basic text file.
Your runbook really only needs 3 essential elements. First off, give them the absolute minimal commands to get the job done. Seriously, don't overwhelm them. Second, provide an expected output example. Show them that they should see the exact words validation OK when they succeed. That gives them the confidence that they actually did it right. And third, give them at least 2 troubleshooting hints. For instance, you could tell them to use an offline flag if they hit a network error, or remind them to use that local ./bin install to avoid annoying system permission blocks. Basically, anticipate the friction and remove it before they even hit it. Moving right along to Section 4, Step 3, automating triggers.
Okay, now we are setting up the automatic cleaning cycle for our machine. We've got it plugged in, the sticky note instructions are there. Now we need to integrate the CLI into the team's automated environment so it just runs itself. An automation trigger is exactly what it sounds like: a CI workflow, a scheduled job, or a webhook that automatically invokes the CLI for routine checks. Think about a GitHub Actions pull request validation that runs the exact same command from our onboarding snippet.
When you do this, you are beautifully unifying the local and remote experience. The tool behaves the exact same way on a server as it does on a teammate's laptop.
Let's compare these two approaches side by side, because the value here is huge. A manual task depends entirely on human memory. And let's be real, human memory is prone to error. Developers forget to run checks before committing code all the time, and it's incredibly hard to audit. But an automated CI trigger? That runs automatically on a pull request, it produces highly observable logs, and it is 100% predictable. If you genuinely want a tool to become part of your team's DNA, you absolutely have to stop relying on human memory and let your CI pipeline do the heavy lifting.
Which brings us to Section 5, the ultimate test, peer validation.
So, you've built the script, you've written the doc, you've set up the trigger, but you know what? You aren't done until an independent teammate puts it all through the ringer. This is a critical checkpoint to see if your setup actually makes sense to another human being. Your acceptance items need to map perfectly to objective verifications. For the installable CLI, your deliverable is the install script, and the verification is having someone run it on a fresh shell. For the onboarding walkthrough, a peer follows your one-page runbook and needs to produce the exact same expected output. And for the automation trigger, you verify it by triggering the CI job and confirming the logs show success. We need objective proof here that the integration actually works in the wild.
Now, spoiler alert, your peer is probably going to break things on their very first try. And honestly, that is totally fine. Actually, you should expect it. That is literally the whole point of testing. When you're troubleshooting these peer failures, you adapt. If the install script blows up, add explicit pre-checks to see if they're missing required utilities. If the CI fails because of missing environment variables, use repository variables to safely handle those secrets. And if the generated outputs are wildly different across machines, add a fixture flag like -- use fixture to stabilize those outputs. You've got to treat this whole package as a living artifact. It gets refined based on real-world and sometimes mildly chaotic testing.
All right, let's bring it all together in Section 6, wrapping up your workflow. We have covered a lot of ground today on how to truly integrate distributed tools into your daily development rhythm. But the core principles are actually surprisingly simple. First, distribution isn't adoption. Just because a binary is sitting on a server doesn't mean anyone is going to use it. You have to build the bridge. Second, make your integrations observable. Use clear logs and deterministic tasks so nobody has to guess what's happening under the hood. And third, iterate the runbook based on real runs from your peers. By systematically reducing cognitive friction, you transform a simple, dusty piece of software into an indispensable tool for your team.
Which leaves us with this final, kind of provocative thought to chew on. How will you turn your peer feedback notes into a continuous, data-driven improvement cycle? Take a moment to really think about that, because that is exactly what we'll be tackling in our next lesson. It's all about making your workflows smarter and more resilient over time based on actual usage. To dive deeper into this subject and explore a whole wealth of other Web3 related topics, make sure you visit us at forge.college. It is a fantastic educational resource. Keep building, keep iterating, and we'll see you in the next explainer.